We start from the two dots again on Samach Zayin and Beis. Okay, Samach Zayin and Beis. The Mishnah tells us that if you're in a situation where there's no kiddushin, if you want to marry the woman, the kiddushin is not effective. And then you have a child from that woman, the child's a mamzer. Okay? For instance, if a person, so we're talking about a person who has relevance to kiddushin, two Jewish people marry, two siblings. A brother marries a sister, so both of them have relevance to kiddushin. But that's only if they marry a person not related to them. In this context, the marriage is not a marriage. So what is the child? The child's a mamzer. That's how you create the mamzer. You know, it's interesting. If you think about it, you know, the Gemara has a discussion in Chulin. Where do we learn tam kikar from? That when you taste something, that the taste is the equivalent of the forbidden substance. Let's say you have chaylev, it falls into a pot. You have less than 60 to 1. So because it's not considered a total dilution, you're going to taste the chaylev, non-kosher fat, in the mixture. Even though it's been interspersed in its physical, it's more than 2 to 1. The Torah says, but if you taste it, the taste is equivalent of the substance itself. That's the concept of tam kikar. Okay? Someone says, where do we know it from? So he said, maybe we know it from basar b'cholav. But if you have milk, and you cook milk and meat together, and you have the mixture, cook them together, if you're able to taste the milk and the meat, so it's considered basar b'cholav. So the Gemara says, you can't learn from basar b'cholav. Why? Even though the majority is meat. So it's a 2 to 1. You have more than 2 to 1, the meat versus the milk. But if you're able to taste the milk and the meat, that's called the tam kikar. You taste the milk, it's called milk and meat. Versus Abai says you can't learn from there. Why can't you learn from there? Because basar b'cholav is chidush. If something is novel in the concept, we say ein l'cho b'ela chidusha. It's limited to that. What's the chiddush of basar b'cholav? You have two permitted entities. The milk is kosher milk. The meat is kosher meat. So how do you have to take two entities which are totally kosher? When you mix them together, you create a forbidden entity. So it's chidush. So because you have this aspect of chidush, of novel, it's like a unique concept. You can't draw from that to apply it elsewhere. Okay? That's what the Gemara says. Tam learn kol basar. It's Gemara Chulin. So therefore, we have some Gemara says we learn from Nazir. Okay, the whole discussion over there. So now you have two kosher Jews, a brother and a sister. Each one is permitted to marry other Jews. So, but yet, if they have their union and they have it, she conceives from him. What do you produce? You produce a mamzer. That's what you produce. How do you have two Jews who are totally kosher, but yet in this context, this union, you create something which didn't exist before? A person's a mamzer, like we had before. A ger marries a mamzeres. What's the child? The child is a mamzer. Why? Because we say the defect pre-existed the relationship, so that defect carries over. So then you're not creating a defect. That's called transferring a defect. But here, two siblings, where the mamzer doesn't exist, that union creates a mamzer. It's similar to basar b'cholav. Same concept. Two kosher Jews, in another context, totally kosher. In this context, you create mamzer. So it's interesting. There's a question, we once discussed this. The halacha is that if you eat a kazayas of non-kosher meat, so you're in violation of eating nevela. It's a negative command. You're not permitted to eat nevela. And if you're forewarned and you eat the kazayas, one is subject to malchus. What happens if you eat pochs michashir? Eat less than a kazayas. It's called chatzi shir. Chatzi shir doesn't mean half. If it's less than a kazayas, you're not subject to malchus. So there's an argument in Yuma, chatzi shir osa min haTorah, mutar min haTorah. On a Torah level, if you eat less than the gzais, did you violate a Torah law of eating the non-kosher? Eat chazer, pork. Eat less than a gzais of pork. Did you violate a Torah law of eating pork? Or not? It's machlokes Rabbi Yochanan says chatzi shir osa min haTorah. It's a Torah violation. The Shloka says it's purely a rabbinic fence. On a Torah level, you're permitted. Chatzi shir is only osa min haTorah. Makes it deliberately. You're serving it at your bar mitzvah. Yeah, you give instructions. Everybody should come dressed modestly, but when you eat the pork, make sure to wait 9-minute intervals between each bite, okay? That's the instruction you give. According to Reish Lakish, on a Torah level, it's 100% permitted. It's purely a rabbinic fence, okay? That's Reish Lakish. We rule like Rabbi Yochanan. Chatzi shir is also in that Torah. But what's the rationale? The Gemara says, what's the rationale? So the Gemara quotes the pasuk. It's based on, because the Torah says chaylev is not permitted. Chaylev, not kosher fat. And the Torah says kol chaylev. Kol, the word kol is superfluous. So kol indicates any amount. Even less than the full amount, it's also not permitted. Wait. No. So, explain it. I'm quoting the Gemara. When I'm telling you I'm quoting the Gemara, then I'll tell you there's an argument how to understand the Gemara that has relevance to this. So the Gemara says, it says kol chaylev. Kol chaylev means any amount of chaylev, even less than whatever the shear is. Because the Torah doesn't speak about kazayis. Right? You could go through the Torah, the word kazayis is not mentioned anywhere. The Gemara says we have a number of locations. Halach l'mishum Sinai. Shiurim, what's considered achilo, to be liable for transgressing, to be subject to malchus, you have to eat a shear. A shear is a kazayis. That's halach l'mishum Sinai. So halach, we know when Gemara says chaylev, what does chaylev mean? Kazayis. So when Torah says kol chaylev, kol means even any amount of chaylev. That means even less than the shear which you have a liability of malchus. Okay, that's the Gemara. It's more cool in Yuma. Gemara says, what's the rationale? What's the rationale? So Rabbi Yochanan says, because it's chozi litztarufei. Chozi litztarufei. Because if you have a half a gazayis, and you take another half a gazayis, and you combine them, what do you have? You have a full gazayis. So there's an argument, what exactly does the Gemara mean? Because they're combinable, therefore even less is not permitted. Because the less may be more. So there's an argument. What's the argument? All fences that we have in the Torah, what? We have the world Rabbanans. Fence. But this, according to some Rishonim, Chatzi Shir is a fence on a Torah level. What's the halacha? Even according to Reish Lakish, if you eat a Chatzi Zayis, which is permitted on Torah level, and Tochen the Achilas Pras within that 9-minute period, or whatever that period is, 3 minutes, 9 minutes, you eat another Chatzi Zayis. To be considered, you ate the full amount. Are you subject to malchus? The halacha is subject to malchus. Because anything which is eaten within that time frame, it's as if you ate it simultaneously at one time. So the reason why the Torah doesn't want you to eat a Chatzi Shir, because it's Chatzi Litztarufei, since it's something which can be combined with another lesser than the shear to create the full amount, therefore it's a Torah fence. There's a Torah fence, you're not permitted to do it, that's Chazin Litztarufei. That's the way some Rishonim learn. Although we normally don't find fences on the Torah level, this is one of the exceptions. It's a siyog on a Torah level. That's the way some Rishonim learn. Wait a second. Another example, which is also Machlok Rishonim, the Ramban, there's a question, a Kohen Gadol, we have a few Kohanim here, not Gedolim yet, Gedolim. Yanai thought he was a Kohen Gadol, okay? So a Kohen Gadol is not permitted to contaminate even to his 7 closest relatives, okay? So Rabbi Yehuda says in the Mishnah Sanhedrin, we have this in Sanhedrin, that it says, Umina Migdash lo yetzei. The Kohen Gadol is not permitted to leave the Migdash. What do you mean, Migdash lo yetzei? So there's an argument, what does that pasuk mean? So one opinion is that the Kohen Gadol, if he attends the funeral of one of his 7 closest relatives, he's not permitted to be able to see the corpse, because there's a concern that he'll violate his kedusha. So therefore, it says as the funeral procession goes down one street, he can't be on that street. He has to be the street behind it, because there's a concern that if he sees the corpse, he'll violate his kedusha. That's umina migdash lo yetzel b'kedushaso. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Because he'll violate his kedusha, because he may come in contact. So the question is Machlok Rishonim, is that a rabbinic fence? Is that a rabbinic interpretation of Min HaMikdash Lo Yetzei? Or is that a Doraisa? The Ramban learns that it's a Doraisa. Migdash min Amigdash, we find again another offense, which, although it's offense, it's a Torah offense.
The right but it's not one in 613. Something in addition to that.
Well, that's a lav. First, we don't rule like Rabbi Yehuda. We don't rule like Rabbi Yehuda. There's an argument when Rabbi Yehuda says that in terms of we rule that a Kohen Gadol is permitted. It's permitted. We learn in Amigdash Yod say that a Kohen that is an onain, normally a Kohen officiates before the burial of his relative, the avodah is not valid. A Kohen Gadol, even before the burial of the 7 closest relatives, u'men Amigdash Yotze lo yotze b'tushaso, that means if he should officiate as an onain, his avodah is kshera. The avodah is a valid avodah. That's the way we rule. He's not permitted to coach him. Coach him, he's not permitted. We're talking about his officiating. No, he can't. No, he can't participate in the burial process. That's true. He's still an onain. You see, he's not permitted to coach him. Coach him, he's not permitted to. But officiate. If he officiates, it's a valid avodah. It's a valid. Why? It's based on this pasuk. That he still functions. A Kohen Hedger does the avodah when he's an onain. It's possible. It's not a valid avodah. But I'm showing you. Now, even though the person is not permitted to contaminate himself, doesn't make a difference. Only means that if the person has that level of relationship, the person dies until the burial, the classification is onain. It's unrelated to your obligation of contamination, to contaminate.
You can also be involved, which can give actual physical interaction.
Okay. Possible follow. Guess the same as words for Shabbos. Okay. Okay.
Speak of the mic. The Torah seems to indicate, and it sets up the reasoning for it, the way that it sets it up. You shall not see a mother's milk. It's as if there's a privilege to eat meat. Maybe I'm going too far with this, but there's a privilege to eat meat. The original man wasn't allowed to eat meat. But this is going too far. To cook the meat with the milk of a calf and milk the milk. That's where the Torah sort of presents it.
No, it doesn't.
Because you can take
No. You have no poetic license on this one. The halacha is no, but it's a pshat, okay? Somebody once came to me and says, "I'm going to tell you a devar," and I listened to it. I said, "By the way, what you tell me is heresy. It's heretical what you tell me." He says, "I understand, but I think it fits into the words." I said, "Yeah, but it's contrary to what the Talmud tells us." He says, "But that's the way I see it." So I said to a relative, I said, "I understand that when he told me it's a devar, it's not a devar Torah." Okay, then I understood afterwards. It's a pshat. Okay, so I have to tell you what it means. Chalev imo. What's that? We discussed. What happens? You slaughter an animal, then you extract the milk from the udder, and you take the meat and cook it in that milk. Is that possible b'cholav? It's not possible b'cholav. Because there says chalev imo. It's only when the mother, when the animal is still a mother. Once it's slaughtered, it's a piece of flesh. So you extracted the milk is the milk that was taken out, not of imo, out of a piece of flesh. So it has nothing to do with it. But still, it's the same milk. It's coming from the same source. But since the mother is not, and it's not in its own kid, the kid in its mother's milk. Any meat. Even it's a different species. It's not this mother. It's another mother. Right? You're not permitted. It has nothing to do because cruelty. Even the chinuch in Sefer HaMitzvahs, where he gives the philosophical background of mitzvahs, he doesn't say this over there. First, it's a chok. Definitely it's a chok. It's a chok. It's a chok. The way he speaks about cruelty, killing a mother and a child on the same day, not permitted slaughter. That it brings out, it evokes a certain cruel aspect in the person.
Because we know that if you took a slice of cold cheese and put it on
correct. Because it says you're not permitted to cook.
You're not permitted to cook.
It's not cooked.
It's not cooked.
Right.
Yes. With respect to the laws of incest, these forbidden relationships, some of them are quite intuitive. And let's say it has to do with the conscious of man. A son, cohabiting with his mother, who's the wife of his father.
That's his father died. Let's say he's not even aware. He's not even aware that it was his father's wife.
Or with the spouse of another person.
Let's say two people are separated, but they didn't terminate the relationship. Woman doesn't have a get. They haven't been together in 20 years, and she cohabits with another man. The relationship hasn't existed, never existed from day one. They just went through the act of marriage. It's a mamzer. What about it's consensual from both parties? It's a mamzer. It's not permitted.
I would call that more technical, because the source of it is that we don't want you to have indiscriminate relationships with other people.
Why? So the Rambam, take a look at the Rambam in the first chapter of relating to marriage, because it says Umola Zima. What happened at the time of the Great Flood? The land was filled with promiscuity. Nobody knew you could have had two children born from a woman, and you didn't know who the father was. And you have two siblings marrying. So ultimately it's going to lead to incest. And the whole world is rife with what? With illegitimacy. Therefore, there's a very specific process. You marry until it's terminated with a get and so on and so forth. It's not you just meet a woman, you cohabit, and you leave her, and then you cohabit with another woman.
Because we know, I've read about when the missing says that originally when a man and his conscience understood that something was wrong, even though there was no law in the books that said such a thing, he was bound to his conscience. And when he did the opposite, he was culpable.
We can quote a Gemara. You can have free Reb Nusayro. Lomali cross svarahi. What do we need a pasuk? It's logic. A man is endowed with intelligence. If something is understood to be wrong, you're not permitted to do it. It's a Torah law.
It doesn't have to be on the
What?
books.
It's a chiyuv. Okay, mishpati.
So what I want to say is, if a son and his mother, you can understand that. If a man and another woman, and a woman is married to another man, you can understand these things. But my question is, I'm getting to the point, what about a brother and a sister?
What about a nephew and an aunt?
Or a nephew and an aunt, if she wasn't married?
It's, not, it's incest. The Torah says it's
I
incest.
understand. I'm asking the question, why?
It's a chok.
That's just a thought.
Chok, they're all chukim. All arayos are chukim.
Because the others, you can understand them.
See, whenever you go with understanding, you get yourself into a problem. Unless there is explicitly the reason, what's the whole issue? If you speak to certain Jews and you ask them, why today don't you keep dietary laws? So they'll give you this understanding at one time where people used dishes or utensils that weren't glazed, it was a question of health. Because the food would absorb into the material, become putrid, diseased. So to be able to maintain ourselves, we have dietary laws. But today that we have all kinds of processes to cleanse and different, there's no reason. Pig, pork, trichinosis, today that we could cure in a way, you can eat pork today. So when you allow your own logic to be applied with the Torah to give the rationale, then you actually get tripped up later. Then you begin dictating, writing your own script regarding when it applies, when it doesn't apply. The Torah, these are all chukim, statutes. You want to have your feeling about it, why, when, but that has no relevance to what halacha is whatsoever. Eishes ish is not permitted, like I said, whether it's consensual, not consensual, it's irrelevant. It's eishes ish. It's not because you're doing the wrong thing, because it's unconscionable taking another man's wife. That's not the reason. It's interesting. There's Sefarno says, there's halacha mazik rushaso. The man divorces his wife. She marries a third party. You're not permitted to remarry her. So the Sefarno says, why? What's the reason? Because he's giving the rationale of it. Because if a person, let's say, is attracted to another woman, and the man says, look, something, but she's a married woman. How could she be permitted to? You know what you do? We'll make an arrangement. I'll divorce my wife. You can marry her for a short period of time. And when you're tired of her, you send her back. So the whole mind of society is going in what direction? It becomes a promiscuous society. You have all these legal loopholes that each person is able to actually be engaged with someone else's wife. And you terminate the relationship when you choose to return the man's wife. There it says, once she marries another man, she's forbidden you forever. You can't make this kind of arrangement. No, it is a chok. He's just giving you... No, because again, he's only mentioning because in those societies, in ancient times, that's the way people behaved. This is the way they behaved, and that's why they became totally corrupted. And ultimately, it's just to give us, it's like the chinuch. The chinuch, even the chukim, he gives reasons just to give us what we're able to draw and learn from it. But that's not the reason. Even the mishpatim is not the reason. Stealing, why is stealing not permitted? Why is murder not permitted? Why is it permitted to commit murder? Because God says you're not permitted to commit murder. That's it. Well, it's unconscionable. Good, it's true. The conscience allows us to control our inhibitions why not to do something. But why is it not permitted? Because God said you're not permitted to do it. That's the difference. We're only offering reasons to make it conscious-wise, to make it easier for us to deal with all these things. But from terms of the way the Torah presents it, there's no difference. Whether it's mishpat, chok, it's what? It's all the same thing. It's all chukim. The greatest pedigree. Each one has the greatest pedigree. Creates. No, it's not two married people. No. The main thing is the woman. It's not the man, right? So the man himself is. She's not, no, but she's not permitted. She's not permitted to anyone. A married woman is not permitted to anyone other than her husband. Married woman is not similar to Basar B'Cholov, right? It's two siblings, right? They're each one independent is permitted to everyone. It's only this combination that creates the mamzer. Right? That's what I'm saying. 9 minutes.
What about if you do it an hour later?
You're at the Seder, you're eating the matzah. You're supposed to eat a kazayas. And you allow a 9 minute, well, let's say we go 3 minutes. You eat a half a kazayas, and you have an interval 3 minutes, and you eat another half a kazayas. You did not fulfill your obligation of eating matzah for Seder. Because since there was this hiatus, this delay from the half to the half, that's considered two separate acts of eating, and therefore it's nothing. You accomplish nothing. So you have to eat it minimally within 3 minutes, both the total kazayas.
Is it only a forbidden marriage that Korach is the mom?
No, to Mises Bezdin too. It's even more so. The Gemara makes a kal v'chomer. If for Korach creates mamzer and there's no tefisas kiddushin, it's firstly every business Bezdin is Korach. Right, so it's an addition. Okay. So let's go a little further. So the Mishnah is kol she'en lo olav kiddushin. If in this particular context, the marriage, it's not marriageable. Minohani milik. So the Gemara wants to know, how do we know this? So the interesting Tosas over here. And Tosas is the same thing as Rashi. He's not arguing. He's the low boy minohani milik devalad mamzer. The question is not, how do we know the child's a mamzer from this kind of union? The question is, but how do I know that there's no tefisas kedushin? Because, as Rashi says, the Torah juxtaposes lo yovam mamzer b'kal Hashem to a situation if a child marries the yavama of his father. His uncle passes away, childless. Widow of his father is bound to his uncle is bound to his father for evil. If the nephew cohabits with the aunt, the yavama, the Torah says it's mamzer. Because Torah juxtaposes yovel mamzer b'kal Hashem to that case. So it wants to know the nephew marrying the aunt. How do I know it's not a marriage? Mamzer, we know it's a mamzer. Of course, it's juxtaposed to that, but how do when it says, lo yigala kinap oviv, the lo yigala, how do we know if he is, how do we know the marriage is not a marriage? Okay? Dobi vomis mukachle lo yigala kinap oviv, sobach le yova mamzer. Mukli lo bivomis, bishomeres yovim shel oviv. He lo ashes achi oviv, she bekoris. So mamzer we know. We want to know, how do we know if you marry a chavi krisus that the marriage is not a marriage? Menolon den kiddushin tovsebo. That's the question. So Tosis asks a question, asks something phenomenal. Bekoshe, the my boy lo adova poshut, b'chol Gemara. He says this is understood. The kiddushin lo tafsi, the haba hotalya. They go hand in hand. If it's mamzer, then you can have tvisus kiddushin. It's a mamzer only if the marriage is not a marriage. If the marriage is a marriage, we're talking about to create mamzer. If it's a pre-existing condition, as we said, a ger marries a mamzeres, so yeah, that's transferring. But to create it, he said it's understood. They go hand in hand. The only reason why it's a mamzer is because the marriage is not, it can't be a marriage. So what's the worst question? Mamzer is simple. It's not so simple. If it's mamzer, it's understood. There's no species kedushin, because the union cannot be within a legitimate context. Every mamzer is a consequence where the marriage is not a marriage. That's the case. If the Torah is already revealing that it is a mamzer, it's understood the marriage is not a marriage. Yeah, but it's not a mamzer. That's Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva also goes hand in hand. Rabbi Akiva says, why is chayvid lavim? Since the marriage is not a marriage, that's why it's a mamzer. That's part of the problem. No, that's his question. Throughout Shas, wherever you find mamzer, it goes always hand in hand. The mamzer is only a consequence of the kedusha not being tofis. And here we're going backwards. We're saying, even though it's a mamzer, but how do you know the marriage is not a marriage? He says, it's to the contrary. It's only a mamzer because the marriage is not a marriage. So what's the worst question? To be continued.